Hi, and welcome to Crafts with Ash. My name's Ashley, and today I am so excited to bring you this very neat DIY that was actually inspired by one of my favorite YouTubers, Kailyn. I can go ahead and link the video down in the description box below for you to check out, but she set up a flower bar in her foyer, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Now, the crate that she got was actually from Hobby Lobby, but when I saw it, I knew that I could create it by using Dollar Tree supplies. So I decided just to make a whole DIY project out of it with a bunch of little DIYs to put with it. So I hope that you enjoy this just as much as I did. But first, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, then hit that little notification bell so you can get notified anytime I upload a new video. Then visit me on Facebook and Instagram and join my crafting community. I upload a lot of behind the scenes content that I know you're gonna love. All right, well, let's get started. So to begin, we are going to start by making the crate. So what you're going to need are 9 of these little crates from the Dollar Tree. And the first thing I did was set them up so it was 3 by 3. Then by taking the wood glue that I actually got from the Dollar Tree, it's the first time I ever tried it, and I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. It's holding up pretty well. But I did a combination of that wood glue and hot glue to glue them all together. Now, of course, because these are from the Dollar Tree, they're not going to fit perfectly because they are not cut perfectly. But that's okay, it just added to the little rustic touch. Then to hold all of my crates together while the glue set, I took these little clamps that I got from the Dollar Tree and put them in between each of the crates. I gotta say, these are pretty cool for only being $1. They're small, but they are very strong and tight, so they're definitely holding all these crates together while the glue sets. After all the glue dried, I went ahead and removed the clamps, and then it was time to stain the entire thing. So to do this, I took a baby wipe and just dipped it in my Waverly antique wax and just rubbed it over the entire crate. Now, I will show you that I actually jumped to a different method to paint the inside, because of course it was hard to get in all the little corners and edges on the insides of the crates with the baby wipe. So in a minute I'll show you what I did, but I just made sure to basically stain this entire thing. Now, of course, you can use wood stain if you like. I just really love the color of Waverly antique wax, so I just stuck with that. All right, so to do the insides, I took a foam brush and I dipped it in some water, and then I dipped it in the antique wax, and then that's how I stain the insides. Now, you don't want to forget to get the little holes there too, and that way the entire thing is stained. Now, this did take a little bit of time, but it was of course super easy, and it definitely pays off in the end. So after it was stained, I just went over it just a little bit with the baby wipe just to kind of wipe down any of the darker part. And then I took a sand block that I got from the Dollar Tree and just sanded over the entire thing to kind of rough it up, but also bring out that natural wood that's underneath. Now, when I started sanding the insides of the crates, you'll see I'm actually sanding against the grain. And then I actually moved to a brand new sand block, and that way it's rougher and it really roughs up the insides. But the reason why I sanded the inside of the crate against the grain is because you can see these sand lines, and I really liked it because it looked like it was aged and this was really old, which is exactly the look I was going for. So now that our crate was complete, it was time to move on to make some accessories to go in it. Now, unlike my other videos, I'm going to save all of the DIYs for the final reveal at the end. So hang with me if you want to see how this all turned out. So I put my crate off to the side and picked up this little plastic toy water can. Now, this did not come from the Dollar Tree. It actually came with something that my daughter got, but she didn't really use it, so I took it. So, of course, once I took it, then she wanted it, but that's okay. I'll just get her another one. Anyway, I do know that the Dollar Tree does sell these, just mine did not have them out yet, but keep your eyes open for when they get put out. So I went ahead and heated up the sticker on the front, and then I scraped it off and then just sanded it. Now, there is a lot of glue residue and paper left over, but to be honest, you can't even tell once this is completed. So next I took my Waverly Elephant Gray paint and I mixed it with a little bit of white chalk paint just to bring the gray a little lighter, because I noticed that when I galvanized things and used this paint, it was a little darker than I liked. So I decided for this to brighten it up by adding some white paint, and it worked out perfectly. Then I just gave this entire watering can 2 coats of that mixture. Now, I have galvanized things on my channel so many times, so you've probably seen me do this 1,000 times, but it is just one of my favorite things to do, and I loved the way that this came out. Now, when you're painting this, you do want to make sure to get the underneath part of the handle that's orange, because in the next little clip, you'll see that I missed it and a little bit of the orange came through. Now, at the end, I did off camera go ahead and fix that, but just make sure to paint as much as you can on the inside too. So once my watering can was dry, I took a piece of paper towel and I put a little bit of white Waverly chalk paint on it. Then I took some black acrylic paint and poured some on. And then I took that mixture that I had made and added it to my paints. Then I'm actually going to add a metallic paint as well. But the first thing I did to give this the galvanized look was I took a little piece of a kitchen sponge and I just dipped it into the white paint, dabbed it off on my paper towel so it wasn't so heavy, and then just dabbed it all over my watering can. Now, like I said, you've probably seen me do this many times before. It's really nothing new, but every single time I do this, I just fall in love with this kind of texture and look even more. So you just want to dab it over the entire watering can, and some parts are a little darker or heavier white, some parts are a little lighter, and then once you have all your white paint on, you're going to move to the black. So you're just going to do the same thing. You dip it in black paint, you kind of dab it off on your paper towel, and then you dab it all over your watering can. Now, you can go back and forth between the white and the black, and that's what I do. That way all the colors seem to mix together. Then once you get the black and the white on, I moved to that gray mixture, and this just dulls down the black and the white so it's not so bold. So I just put that gray black paint all over the watering can by doing the same thing. Then I moved to a metallic silver paint that I picked up from Walmart, and I dabbed that all over the watering can too to kind of give it a little bit of a shinier look. Now, I didn't want it too shiny, and it really didn't make it shiny, very shiny at all, so the way that it came out was perfect. My mom could not believe that this was the little plastic watering can that I started out with before. So I cannot wait to show you the final reveal. But honestly, like I said, when you're in the Dollar Tree, keep your eyes open for these little plastic toys because you'll be able to make them into high-end looks so easily. Real quick, as I finish up this watering can, if you are new to my page, I just want to welcome you and say thank you so much for joining me. I have gained so many new subscribers in the last couple weeks, so I know that there might be a lot of new faces here, so I just want to say thank you. And if you're returning, thank you so much for returning to my channel and for subscribing. I truly appreciate all of your support. My channel has grown so much in the last month, and it is not because of me, it is because of you. So thank you so much for all of your support. I really look forward to sharing a ton more DIYs, home decor ideas, and party planning ideas with all of you in the future. So thank you so much. If you are loving what you're seeing today, please don't forget to give my video a thumbs up because it really helps my channel to grow. Also, I do want to mention that if you ever recreate one of these DIYs that I make on my channel, or just create anything, don't forget to hop on over to my Facebook page. I have a Facebook group too, Crafts with Ash DIY and Decor group, and that's where you can post all of your finished products. And I would absolutely love to see what you create. So please feel free to go to the Facebook page and share it with everybody in my crafting community. Once that part was complete, I took my Waverly Antique Wax and a makeup sponge, and I just kind of brushed it over any parts that I thought would naturally become rusty. And this, I feel, brought the whole thing together. This completed and totally gave me the look I was going for. So I made sure to dab it around the spout where the holes are, up around the handle, the edges, the top and the bottom, and then kind of underneath where the spout is too, because you figure if water got on there, it would be a little rusty. So, and then I just kind of blotted in between on the sides as well, and I totally think this completed the watering can. Don't forget, I'm going to have my final reveal at the end. After my watering can was finished, I went ahead and put that aside, and then I grabbed these two gardening tools that I got from the Dollar Tree. So the first thing I did was, of course, cut off the tags, and then I cut off the foam that's around the handle. This just was not going to fit into my look. Now, I am not a gardener. This is not actually to be used, obviously. This is just for display and decor purposes only. Okay, so I then took that baby wipe again and dipped it in some Waverly Antique Wax, and I stained the bottom of these tools because the light wood just was not going to go, so I needed to darken it up a little bit, but I did this for both. Then to add a little texture in the middle, I took some twine and simply hot glued it in between the top and the bottom of the handle. You can see that there's little grooves there, so that's where I started and that's where I ended. But I just made sure to keep it very tight so the entire middle of the handle was covered with twine. Now I didn't put hot glue around every single wrap around, if that makes sense, but I just kind of wrapped and wrapped and then put some hot glue and then wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and put more. So I just kind of tacked it down as I went, as I saw fit. But I did this on both tools as well. After my handles were wrapped, I just took my scissors and kind of trimmed up all of the little hairs that were sticking out. Now, I know a lot of people use lighters, but I get a little freaked out with fire. So I just opted for cutting it all off. Then I took that Waverly Antique wax and my makeup sponge again, and I just dabbed it all over the twine just to kind of give it that rustic look and to darken it up just a little bit. Now, for the tops of the tools, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can do this. And the reason why is because I did it one way and then I saw a different way that after I already did this, so I decided to change it. But here's number 1. This is kind of the simpler look if you want to go with this look. So the only thing I did was paint the tops of the tools, the metal parts, with that gray elephant chalk paint from Waverly. So I just painted the entire top and then also that little silver ring that's right above the wood, the handle. And then after that, I added some Waverly Antique wax around the edges of the tops and then kind of in the middle just to add that antique rust look. Okay, so that was the first way to do it. So it was just the gray chalk paint and then some rust. Now, this is the one that I fell in love with and that I had to try. So this one is super easy too. So all you do is you take some Mod Podge and you rub it all over the top of the tool. You make sure that the surface is completely covered. After that's done, you're going to take some ground cinnamon, that's right, I said cinnamon, and you're going to sprinkle it all over the tool. Then you're going to take that Mod Podge again and simply paint over it. Now at first, it's just going to look like you're just pushing all the cinnamon around and it's not doing anything. But the more Mod Podge you add, the more it's going to start to create a paste. And that's when the magic happens. So as you can see there, it's starting to adhere and it's starting to kind of make it bumpy and kind of textured. Then all I did was sprinkle a little bit more cinnamon in random spots and then I dabbed the Mod Podge on top of it. And that seemed to bring out the very primitive, very rustic, very rusty, very antiqued, very old look I was going for. Just all the things. So after the front was done, I went ahead and flipped it over and did the exact same thing to the back. Then after my shovel was complete, I grabbed the other tool and did the exact same thing. I cannot wait to show you how these turned out at the end. So you definitely want to stay tuned. This is so amazing. And I want to thank the Silver Farmhouse on YouTube and Facebook for giving me this amazing idea. Now in this shot, the Mod Podge was still a little wet, but you can see what it's going to look like and how amazing does that look. Then, of course, to give it that final touch, I took that Waverly Antique Wax and just kind of rubbed it all over the edges of both of the tools and then around that little silver ring, and that brought it all together. I love these. Then I put those aside, and this next one really isn't a DIY, but I went ahead and did 3 of these because we're going to add them to the box. So I took the pack of the mini terracotta pots that came from the Dollar Tree, and these are the 3-pack, and I just simply dry brushed some ivory chalk paint all over the pots. And like I said, I did these 3 of them. Now I only showed you one because I did the other 2 off camera because it is that simple. Next, it was time to make a sign for our crate. So I grabbed this cute little framed sign that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I loved it because I really loved what the front looked like. So I started off by taking off the hanger, and then I took out the insert. Now, the wood around is not wood. It's like a plasticky type of material. I'm not even sure what it is. So I sanded it down thinking that that would help for the antique wax to adhere to it. It really didn't. I mean, if this was real wood, I would only have to go very lightly and give 1 coat, but you can see right there that it's kind of spreading and it's plastic or something. So what I did was use a baby wipe, dipped it in that antique wax, and then I gave it 2 coats, and I dried the first coat before applying the second coat. That way it just made it a little darker. Now it does look like wood. I mean, there is wood grain or fake wood grain coming through, so it did end up really great at the end, but I just went ahead and gave it 2 coats just for good measure. Now I really love this too because it ended up lighter than the actual crate itself, which I loved. After that was done, I took the insert and I had 2 goals here. First, I wanted to try to preserve that really cute home word. Second, I was trying not to rip the paper. Spoiler alert, I failed at both. So to make this a little easier, I just heated up the word with my hair dryer, and then I used my scraper tool to carefully try to get the word off. Now, the word did pull up some of the paper at the bottom, but I actually just kind of went with it, and like I said, this whole thing is going to be super rustic anyway, so it just kind of added to the rustic touch. Now, as I got closer, or in the middle of the word, boom, it broke. But at least it broke in 2 different pieces, and it's going to be super easy to hot glue back together if I ever go to use it, as I showed you right there. So to kind of fix the paper, I did go ahead and peel off a little bit around the edges, and then I sanded it down. Now, of course, you want to be careful because you don't want to rip up a lot more of the paper, but I just did the best I could. And then, of course, to give it that rustic look, I took my Waverly Antique Wax and I just brushed it all over the sign. That way, it tied in with the rest of the project. Now, for this, I used my favorite distressing brush and I just dry brushed right over it. Then I did pay attention to the edges too. To add my wording to my sign, I used this stencil that I also picked up from the Dollar Tree. Now we're going to be spelling out Flower Market. So I used my ruler just to figure out where the center was, and then there are 6 letters in both, so the O and the W are going to split center up top in the word flower, and then market, the R and the K are going to split center in that word. Now, as much as I measured this, it still did not come out perfectly even on the top and the bottom, but it's okay. Again, it just adds to that rustic look. So I just kept it. I might add something to either side of the words to kind of make it all go together, but honestly, I really love how it all came out, so it's okay by me. So I did, as you can see, I am drying in between because I did notice that the stencil, the paint on the stencil was getting onto the sign, and I really wanted to preserve the sign. So I just went ahead and stenciled all of my letters on. Now it did kind of come out messy, and I'm going to fix that in a minute, but I was kind of disappointed. I have used these before and it's never done that, so I don't know if it was because the paper was kind of glossy underneath or what, or it could have been user error. It very well could have been. But I do go ahead and fix it. Now, of course, if you have a Cricut or a vinyl cutter or something like that, you could use that to do this step. So after all my letters were on and they were dry, I dry brushed some white Waverly chalk paint over my letters just to kind of distress them, and then I did that with the Waverly Antique Wax as well. So then this is where I decide, and they're a little bit too messy, so I'm going to go ahead and clean it up. So I simply just took my black paint marker from Walmart and I just outlined each of the letters, and this really helped to clean it all up. Then, because it kind of took away some of the white distressing and the brown distressing, I just went ahead and distressed over it again. How many times can I say distressing or distressed in this video? After that, I popped my sign back into the frame and then just kind of made some touch-ups to distress it even more. I did decide to add a little bit more white to the letters, but then I also went around the frame as well to kind of lighten it up. And again, I wanted there to be a difference of color between this sign and the crate itself. The crate is very dark, so I loved how this was a little lighter. It was a great contrast. Now, to attach this sign to the crate, I took 2 of the longer dowel rods that I got from Walmart, and I simply hot glued one on either side of the sign. Then after that glue set, I just took my baby wipe and antique Waverly wax and I stained my dowel rods. I really do love how the front of this sign came out, and that's why I really wanted to preserve that paper underneath, because I think those pink little flowers are the perfect little pop of color that this needed. After my dowels were all dry, I took my crate and I figured out the middle of the crate and where to hot glue the sign on. Then by adding a generous amount of hot glue, I just simply glued them on. Now I did end up adding something underneath the sign to hold it up while the glue set, because it was kind of hard to hold the sign up and then push the dowel rods down because I don't have 3 hands. I only have 2. But once they pretty much set, I did go ahead and add some duct tape to the back just to give it that extra support. Now, of course, it's bright blue duct tape, but this is going up against a wall anyway, so it didn't really bother me. But I have not had a problem with it falling off or anything, so the duct tape definitely helped. So after my sign was on my crate, it was time to put it all together. So now it's time for the final reveal. What do you think? I cannot express to you how excited I was to share this with you. I just absolutely loved how this came out, and there is so much to look at. There's so much going on here and a lot of texture that I just think adds to this display so well. Now, as you can see, I did go ahead and add some flowers that I got from the Dollar Tree. I just added a bunch of different greenery and some picks and mixed them all together. I added the pots that we had painted, and then how cool do those tools look? I wish that you could see them in person because the camera does not do them justice, and to feel them is really neat as well. But look at that. I mean, how neat is that texture? I also decided to add a pair of gardening gloves just to add to the vibe of gardening. So you're going to have to let me know in the comments what you think about this entire display. I decided to put it in my mom's foyer. Yes, I am still living here. I decided to put it in her foyer and she really loves it. I paired it up with some watering cans that I got from Ray Dunn, and it came out so cute. I will actually have a picture of that in just a little bit. Another amazing idea that I thought of after doing this was I cannot wait to switch this out for every season. Now, because that picture up top, the frame, it just pops off, I can make an insert that says pumpkin patch, sunflower patch, fresh eggs maybe for Easter, or carrot patch, and then I can just fill these crates with all of those things like pumpkins, carrots, eggs, sunflowers, and then think of something for Christmas. So I love how versatile this is going to be. This is an absolutely all year round piece, and I think it is such a statement and really says a lot. So let me know in the comments what you think. Again, I want to thank you so much for joining me today and watching me create this display. I hope that you got inspired and got some ideas to create your own. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and then give this video a thumbs up if you loved what you saw today. It really helps my channel to grow. And until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!